Hello and welcome everyone to Admitted, your advice for college admissions and testing. This is episode 26. My name is James, and we're going to be talking about your high school roadmap today, how to make high school planning made simple. I'll be your driver on this roadmap today. My name is James Dolan from Tutor Doctor here in Indianapolis. Joining us is the lady that always brings the snacks on the trip, Jessica Bush, from Tutor Doctor North New Jersey, and Mr. Are We There Yet? All the way out in Tutor Doctor San Diego County, Chris Leanne. How are you two today?
We're good.
Doing great. We've got a very long bus that stretches from Jersey to San Diego. Yes.
Gotta get everybody on the bus, right?
Country bus is here.
There we go. All right, so in any trip that I ever take, I don't care if I'm headed down the road or across town, I gotta key in that GPS. And Chris, I'm not talking about GPS on the map. What is a GPS here for college planning?
Well, in Tutor Doctor's vernacular, there's your SAT vocabulary word of the day, vernacular, a graduation planning system. So the idea here is to give a little bit of an overview, especially for those who are just starting the grand voyage here, getting on the bus for the high school years. If you're already on that journey, well, then this is an opportunity to recalibrate your GPS, again, your graduation planning system. And we hope to give you a little bit of insight that we've gained through all the years of our experience and our family's experience, customers' experience, and see if you can figure out which roadways, which side exits, and which rest stops you might want to take during this GPS adventure.
I love that, the GPS, we're gonna bring in that. So when I get on my GPS, I enter the destination. Why is it important to know our destination when we're talking college planning here?
Well, destinations, right? I mean, you can have the best. You can look at sports. You can look at art. You can look at any endeavor. If you don't have a finished goal or starting with the end in mind, as it were, first of all, you don't know, is that really the path I want to be on? Is that really the end outcome I want to deterministically arrive at? Secondly, what is the most efficient path between there and here? Certainly there's opportunity for scenic overlooks and different drives along the way, but that's only if you know where your destination is and you know your timeline, because you can have a destination you want to hit in 75 years, but hopefully no one's high school career is going to take 75 years. It's a very short period of time. So the destination, the timing, the pathway, and also the inputs into that. What are we going to need in order to be able to get us to that destination? So just like planning a fun road trip, the same thing is really planning your high school years, because so much rides on it afterward, college, career, and really the rest of your life.
Love that, love that. Before you know where you're going, you got to know where you're starting, right? Jess, does it always work out? What are some things we need to avoid on that road?
Yeah, there definitely are some roadblocks that we can actually help you through. That's one of our goals at Tutor Doctors, help you through the roadblocks and the detours, right? And that all comes from planning. So planning all the way from, when you transition into high school, what's important. So transitioning into high school, which is a big transition, learning how to plan, organize your time, and then, when do you start planning for college? We can help you with those types of questions and roadblocks. Does your student don't have no idea what they're interested in, which is common? Does your student have an IEP or a 504, which is also common? So yeah, proper planning, which is how we can help you to avoid those roadblocks and detours, is really important.
Absolutely. Stay on that path. So we know the destination. We're going to avoid those roadblocks, detours, or find a way around them with our planning. And then I always like to look for road signs along the way. Make sure you're going in the right direction, right? If I'm headed west and I see eastbound signs, well, I know I'm not on the right track, right? I need a guide to help get me there. So we're going to talk about some road signs today, help keep us on the right path, so that GPS gets us where we're going. So let's talk about some different tracks of students. Different student groups, different student populations are going to require different planning, different scheduling, different tools. So let's talk a little bit about the different tracks that a student might be able to take. So Jess, why don't you start us off with one of the first ones?
So we've got, of course, highly selective institutions, right? Those students that are on the top that are looking to go, I like to call them highly selective, Ivy League, whatever you want to call them. There's way more highly selective institutions right now than there are ones that are considered Ivy League. because things are becoming more and more and more competitive every year. So there's different things. If you're looking for some of those highly selective institutions, many times students want to have, there are earlier deadlines that they need to be conscious of. You know, they may have a more aggressive schedule. The content is deeper. You need to really work with your guidance counselor, work with a college coach. If you want to attend some of these highly selective institutions, you need to know what those colleges demand. It's different. I don't want to necessarily get into early decision versus early action here. We could talk about that in a whole nother webinar. But four-year college-bound colleges, there are so many colleges out there, so many colleges nationally. You need to almost the student needs to create a spreadsheet and know what are the requirements of each school, right? So that the student is meeting those requirements if those colleges, those four-year college-bound colleges are on your list. What grades do you have to attain to kind of be in the range to be admitted? What minimum test scores do you need to have in order to be even considered in one of those schools? I remember when I took my daughter to Northeastern, this was literally 7 years ago. We sat in on an info session, which I highly recommend going to some of these info sessions. I remember them saying to get accepted, and this was back then, 7-8 years ago, to get accepted into Northeastern, you have to have an ACT score of around a 32 and up. I looked at my daughter and I was like, okay, this is how highly competitive it was then. Now it's even more so. So you need to know those things. We need to also know about IEPs and different accommodations. There are colleges that have accommodations for your student. That's a really important thing to know about. It may not be all the well-known colleges that everybody is talking about and the trend, but there are some really, really excellent colleges that will take accommodations for your student and will take their IEPs into consideration. So that's also important to know.
That's a great recommendation, creating a spreadsheet that kind of, it's a way to keep your child engaged with the family and with any other third parties. You know, you're bringing in a tutor to help them kind of provide their recommendations and considerations. One of the things I always like to start my kids out with is, why that school? Why are you picking that school? And what we're trying to get to is, are you picking the school because the school is pulling you, or are you picking the program of study and it's pointing you towards that school, right? A lot of here growing up in Indiana, people grow up and they say, hey, I'm going to IU or I'm going to Purdue. Well, why are you choosing those schools? Is it a program of study pulling you there, or are you just going for the experience? And so I think I
want to interject, throwing that in the Northeast right now, around this New York metro area, all the kids want to go. Can you take a guess? Florida. Why do you think they want to go to Florida? And then I say to them, why is everybody looking at the Florida schools? These schools right now require 100%. They require SAT or ACT scores. It's not test optional anymore down there. What do you think they say? Oh, we want to go to the beach.
Yeah.
We want the warm weather. We don't want snow. And you got to go visit the schools because that may not be the right fit. Most important is the kids are happy.
Sure. Well, they're happy, but they're also going for a program they're going to be happy with once they graduate, right? So I think putting it on some sort of spreadsheet or a program to compare and contrast, you're going to see that list change over the course of your college planning, right? Yeah. Folks will drop off, or schools will get added and things. What if highly selective or four-year college? What if those aren't your end game, Chris? Are there other options we should be making sure we add to this sheet?
Yeah, and I wanted to, that's a very important sort of beginning of the trip, or even before the trip begins, right? Choose your adventure. There are multiple different tracks there that we can real briefly summarize here. And perhaps future videos, we can dive deeper into those a little bit and answer any kind of requests that come in the comments. But there are four-year universities, there are community college tracks. There's even what used to be called the VOTAC, or the Vocational Technical Institutes, that are out there. And those are making a comeback because in a lot of those areas, if somebody they just weren't all that jazzed about studying in school, or maybe they were very strong, but they like to work with their hands. Those are the jobs that are, for the most part, AI proof. You won't be able to put a prompt into ChatGPT and have it fix the plumbing system of your home or things like that. You need a real live individual to come out, survey the situation, who might actually use AI as he's doing his analysis, but nonetheless.
I use YouTube, Chris. I fix all my plumbing with YouTube video.
Yeah, there you go. YouTube's great, but in the end, somebody's got to put hand to pipe or hand to wrench, right? And do it expertly, not, that's why Home Depot does so well, because they end up selling a lot of the parts to repair the damage that was started on the DIY project to begin with. So that's another track. So does somebody want to do that, permanently, or even just for a few years, and then eventually go down the college path? There is no right or wrong way. What I will say approaches a wrong path or a wrong way is when a parent goes in and programs the GPS system exactly how their college experience went a few decades ago, because the whole game has changed big time, regardless of where you go. And what was talked about a moment ago, programs and things like that, it's also just, and what Jessica mentioned with the experience, it's very important to go back and determine, again, what is my end goal? Where do I really want to be and see myself? And is this the right preparatory path? So the four-year universities are great for many students. In some states, California being one, there's a very robust community college system where California was developed in the 1960s. And so what they developed was a three-tier system, University of California being largely research-oriented, the states, the California state system, including San Diego State and others, that's been more instructional and general education. And then the community college, generally two-year system, though some of them now have expanded into four-year programs for various majors. And the idea was, if you had, in those days, they designed it for a 2.0 GPA at the community college. If you maintained at least that, you could matriculate up to the UC system. Since then, I think the requirement's gone up a bit, but they've also opened it up that you can go into the Cal State system. So the community college system has been phenomenal. And in some locations, in some states, it's actually free to the student. It's taxpayer support.
Can I interject? Because I wanted to bring that up. In this area, if you maintain in high school a certain GPA, you can go to community college for free. That's major. That's huge.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's other states where if it's beneath a certain income level, and there's other states where they've just thrown open the doors. Now, if it's free, why doesn't everybody go down that path? Well, because, quite honestly, the marketing at the universities, and private colleges and such do, which is fine. And, there are 4,500 or thereabouts four-year colleges and universities in the US. There's a college for every student, and that is even excluding the community colleges. So it is important to survey the landscape. The other thing that I'll just quickly say is, just like when you're going down the road, you don't just want to have your head on the GPS the entire time, the guidance positioning system, not the graduation positioning. But you do want to look out the windshield. You do maybe want to have the radio on from time to time, especially if you see storm clouds on the horizon. You want to scan your environment to make sure that you're seeing the changes. And at this time, as Jessica mentioned, some of the universities have gone back to full requirement now of the SAT and the ACT for admissions, in some cases for scholarships, or it's at least strongly required. So it's very important to stay abreast of that and look at really credible news sources and make sure that you're getting information from a source that knows what's going on and is up to date, because it's changing all the time. And Tutor Doctor people stay abreast of this, and we can inform you if you reach out to us.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Just in the last couple of months, we've seen changes with the SAT, the way it's presented, the way you're prepping for it. The ACT now is on board and changing it. So yeah, just when you start your journey, whether you're starting at 6th, 7th, 8th grade, planning for high school, planning for college, those requirements change. I know here in Indiana, going into effect next school year. So for incoming freshmen, there's new high school graduation requirements. There's 2 new high school degrees that they can graduate with. And if I'm going in with you mentioned about your parents, if I'm planning my daughter's high school graduation requirements based on what I think the core 40 requirements are, she may not graduate. So we got to rely on our guidance counselors at school to help get us through the high school and anticipate college admissions requirements. But yeah, bringing in a third party that's helping not only with exam prep, not only with college admissions and planning. That's where Tutor Doctor can really help. So let's all right. So let's shift gear here. So we talked about the 3 tracks, right? Our highly selective students, our 4-year bound students, our community college or our voc ed students. There are different milestones along the way, different road signs, different keys that we need to be considering that might help us determine, are we on track? Are we off track? Is there a way to get back on track? Chris, what's one of the earlier planning milestones that we need to be considering for our high school courses?
Yes. Now we see the adventure become a little bit more interesting, a little bit more specific, some golden keys here to look at. So the first would be the AP courses. There a lot of parents, a lot of people notionally understand AP. What AP stands for is advanced placement, not all-night planning, which some students see when they do their homework. But with the AP courses, there are 40 of them now, from AP calculus, even pre-calculus, which was added to sort of be a halfway bridge between full calculus and integrated math. Languages, Spanish, Italian, French, Hebrew, all the sciences. So it's all there, and the whole idea was to give students an exposure to more rigorous, theoretically college level study and examinations and classroom presentations, and many times taught in sort of a seminar fashion, as you would experience in college. And on the other hand, it's a great opportunity for a student to prove not only to college admissions people, but even to themselves, hey, I am growing in this area. I'm taking on a little bit heavier load and I'm capable to do it. So like anything, even like weightlifting, you don't want to go in there and put your full max on there the first time you ever pick up a bar, right? And you want to make sure that you're approaching it the right way. Again, guidance, your guidance counselor, and not overdoing, certainly not taking on 6 or 7 AP classes in a semester. The workload is very heavy, and it is a change in how somebody executes it, and the exams are tough. But the good news is it can open the door for a student when they take the AP examination in the first half of May each year. Then if they do well enough, it's a 5-point scale, 5 being the highest. Many universities will permit a student to become exempt from the college equivalent of that course, typically first semester or first quarter. And if they score a 3, 4, or 5, you do want to check with the universities that you're targeting. There are some that may require a score of 4 or 5. There are others that will accept it for the GPA boost that you get, but they may not exempt you, and they want you to take the class in their university. So it varies pretty widely by the universities. You do want to explore that as you begin to plan your high school your requirements. Even if you may not attend that college for 4 years, it's good to at least understand where things are going and get exposure to the field of major that you might be interested in someday.
Yeah, Chris, our AP courses just for seniors? When should, for our different tracks here, for a highly selective versus our 4-year in community college, when should we be thinking about putting AP courses in our schedules?
Jessica said a few minutes ago very rightly that it's become very competitive. We have a lot of parents contact us when their students are in the 8th grade, wondering how they can get their rising 9th grader into 4 or 5 AP classes. And I just have a one-word answer for them: it's don't. Even if a student is in that sort of 2 percentile that could theoretically do it, it's too much loading. You want to kind of gradually get into it. Most high school counselors, most college board people, staff members will tell you that 10th grade is about the right time to start to introduce 1 or 2 of those AP classes, see how well the student does, see if they even like that method of instruction and the pedagogy, and then accelerate that maybe the second half of 10th grade going into 11th and 12th. But again, try to take the AP classes that are in one's area of interest and major. If you're a strong math science kid, not so much in languages, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense perhaps to go up and take an AP British literature class or something like that. It's not in their wheelhouse, and so you wouldn't want to try to force it. You want to have the AP shine, not try to just do it because somebody thinks you should do that.
Good point. That AP courses are the more traditional way to get college credit, right? For allowing students to test in or test out of courses. One of the other ones that a lot of high schools and colleges have come together on is this idea of dual credit or concurrent credit. So I know in Indiana here, there are a lot of opportunities in high school. You could be taking, for example, a math course, a calc or a trig course that is high school level, but also college level rigor. And there's agreements between the two institutions to allow for that transfer, that dual credit. That is a more common one, at least here locally, for students to achieve college credit. It's not unusual, especially for our students pursuing highly selective or even four-year institutions, to graduate high school with a number of college credits already under their belt. There are some graduation requirements that require dual credit hours, but it's also something to keep on your schedule. If AP maybe isn't at the level you're looking at for some of this expansive curriculum, dual credit or concurrent enrollment is another option that our students can use.
And one thing to add on that real quickly, Jim, very good. That's two different paths, if you will, within the greater path. So that is the second golden key, is the concurrent enrollment. But as I mentioned with the AP, you will want to ensure that the college to which you would be applying would accept that. For instance, if you take English 101 at the community college, make sure that the college you're applying to, will accept that as part of the transcript so that it will factor into your grade point. But secondly, that it will exempt you from taking that English 101 in their institution. Usually it's the case, but it can be sort of restrictive, and especially the more selective of the university, they may not be as willing to accept that. So but you do want to look into that. And just one anecdote, a personal story. I have an extended family member who took so many concurrent courses while in high school that he was able to, halfway through his sophomore year, in terms of requirements at a few of the universities he applied to and one he ultimately selected. So it's a great time savings, a great cost savings, and also, as you can move into more advanced coursework when you start college.
Absolutely, that definitely. There's plenty of stories out there of students pursuing that, and yeah, saving the time in college, but yeah, saving that expense, because it's a lot cheaper to do it earlier at a lower rate there, for sure. Jess, how does from a milestone perspective, when should we be thinking about exam prep? I know we're talking about SAT, ACT a lot. When should I be thinking about that for my different tracks of students?
So when I get a family who is, and I have a number of them now, probably this year more than ever, it's a big factor in a lot of parents' minds. So what's going on with SAT and ACT, not just the changes, but when do I start them? I don't want to start them too late. One of the key questions that I always ask families: what math class is your student currently taking? It's the most important thing. And what is their current GPA? Because we need to know, where are they at? Are they struggling? Or are they, why is their GPA maybe a 2.5? When you go back to freshman year, did they have a hard transition? You need to know kind of the history of the students' academics through high school. So where are they at in 10th grade? I probably have had more sophomores come to me right now. I've got probably 6 or 7 in the pipeline that we've met with, we've talked to, and we've created a plan to start over the summer. The summer between 10th and 11th grade is probably the target, based on one really important thing, and that's their math class. If they haven't learned all of the algebra, it's a losing proposition, and you're setting them up to get a poor score, and then it affects their confidence. And I always say to the kids, you're not ready yet to start test prep because you haven't learned all the math. Yes, we can teach you the math, but we really want to teach you how to take the test, and the tricks and strategies and the timing and the pacing. So that's a key question, is what math class is your student currently taking? The benefits, I'm sorry.
You're talking Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 as well as geometry, correct?
100%.
Yeah, okay.
They need to have Algebra 2 under their belts, especially now with the changes that are going on. They have to have Algebra 2 under their belts.
Because they're leaving, if they don't, they could be leaving, 15 to 25% of their math score on the table.
And now they're increasing the amount of the more advanced algebra, and they're lessening the amount of the early pre-algebra, because the kids are rusty. I mean, some of them have had pre-algebra in middle school. Yeah. So that's even more of a reason that they need to have Algebra 2 under their belts. The benefit of summer test prep is that we can take that time and really focus and condense the test prep, which is good, because sometimes during the school year, if your student has a really super hardcore, challenging class structure, some test prep places, they're doing 2 and 3 intensive sessions a week. It's too much. These kids can't take it. So it kind of dilutes the test prep. Where in the summer, you can really condense and focus. They don't have a whole lot of other distractions. Maybe they're working, maybe they're going to camp. So we can really, maybe they have extracurriculars or team sports they're doing. So we can really focus the test prep and have a really solid plan, and then plan when is the first national test you're going to take. Wow. And it's all about planning, taking the test. What test are we going to take? First of all, SRT or ACT, giving them a practice test, and then what national test are we going to take? And then back it out over the summer and figure out, a plan and a schedule.
Yeah.
And
including
their downtime, including the vacation, including whatever else they have going on, which is really important.
Yeah, and one thing to add as well, because it's very important, is level of effort. There's a lot of people that mistakenly believe that, write a check and, scores, and it can I pay you $500 more to get another 3 points on my ACT?
Right.
It doesn't work that way. If it did, we'd be billionaires. The bottom line is, it's the level of effort comes in terms of the homework. And, you can consider a reputable test prep program to be about the equivalent to an honors level high school course. And to also consider it as a season. I know many of the Tutor Doctor offices have a program, might be around 24 hours, maybe a little bit more. But when you look at it, it's usually about a 12 to 14 week period of time, much like a 13-week season of the year, which is why we call it test prep season. So you do want to make sure it's a fairly concentrated effort, because there is a lot of momentum that also goes into the test. And you want to ideally complete your test prep program within a couple of weeks of your first official exam date, so you don't kind of get rusty, do a little bit of prep for it. But it's very important, which goes back to Jessica's point on summer. Most of the time, students can put more effort in with the homework on summer, and you can work around family vacations. And we've even seen kids, bring their curriculum with them and actually work on it a little bit during their family vacations. But that's totally up to the individuals. But you do want to make sure that that's where the aha happens. The student sits and goes through and says, oh, now I remember what my tutor had shown me on this. So you can't shortchange the homework by any means.
Yeah, that's a good point about it. Test prep being about an honors level course. One of the old measurements when determining credit hours and course length, a 3 credit hour course should meet for approximately 3 hours a week in class, in person. And then there should be that equal time, the equivalent time in out of class time. So homework preparation. So an honors level course that could be 3 or 4 credit hours, you're meeting for 3 or 4 hours, plus you're doing time or time and a half on your own. So you're talking 10, 15 hours a week that you need that in order to balance your downtime. Like Jess, like you said, during a school year with everything else going on, there sometimes isn't enough between a job and school and extracurriculars. So summer's a great time to balance that out. There's another inherent benefit, and that is when you are actively engaged in learning, and it may not be new material, but learning about preparation and pacing and all of these other tactics we go over, you're preventing that summer brain drain from creeping in, right? You're staying active, you're staying engaged. And so you hit the ground in the fall in a better position academically, in addition to the prep work you did. So great points on test prep. We could talk all day about summer test prep, why we think it's important. I think it's important to engage with your local office, talk about what the right plan is. Jess, you talked about the timeline, the schedule. Test prep's just one of those pieces. One of the other milestones, Jess, is college applications. All of this stuff we've talked about then plays into the final boss, right? College applications. Talk to us about that timeline.
Well, and especially if it's your family's first time student when they've never been through this whole college process. I always tell them in advance, the summer between 11th and 12th grade is really important for your college applications, because you need to find out if that's part of that spreadsheet, make a column for what type of college application does that school accept. Many colleges accept the common application, which is the common app. But some colleges don't. Some colleges have their own application. So you need to know that when you're creating your spreadsheet, what kind of application does the college accept? And they need to know that August 1st of the summer between junior and senior year is really important, because you need to set up your common app account, right? And then August 1st, that's when all the supplemental and the essay topics go live. So that summer is going to be really focused on their applications. That's really, really important. And I usually tell them your relationship with your guidance counselor in regards to this whole college application process is really important, because you're not always the one. You're not sending your transcripts to the schools. Your guidance counselor is. Really important. So that's why many schools have a platform. Some still have this platform called Naviance. Some are now transitioning to a new platform called Score. And it manages and helps you manage your college choices. So you create a platform, you put your colleges in, and you work with your guidance counselor through that platform, which really helps them sort of navigate. It also shows a scatter plot of certain colleges that you put in and what GPA and scores have certain students been accepted into those schools. So you have an idea of where you're at as you're also working on your spreadsheet.
That's awesome. So you're taking all of these factors, right? You're talking the AP courses and what grades you got there, your dual credit enrollment, your test prep, your scores. One milestone we didn't really hit on, which is implied, but how about your GPA, right? In addition to juggling all these other things, you have to make sure you're still knocking out your PE class and your music requirements and languages and all these, your maths and science and arts and all these other core classes. You have to hold on tight to those.
Absolutely.
And all that goes into that application. And then your extracurriculars, your hours of service, all these exam scores. It's your portfolio of your performance, right? And you have to start early, and you have to make sure nothing worse than getting to the end and filling out that application and realizing I missed a credit hour, or I'm not going to graduate, or something isn't as it was.
Which all speaks to having a plan from the beginning. And that's one of the reasons we're having this discussion today, is just, again, to inform folks, but also at the same time, to just mention that we're able to help. There are Tutor Doctor offices all throughout the US and Canada and elsewhere, and we're very happy to meet with you. You can contact us. We'll give in a little bit here some contact information that you can find your local office. You can see it in the comment section of this video as well. But we're here as a resource as well. And the benefit that Tutor Doctor brings to it is today you can see we've got somebody from the East Coast, the Midwest, and the West Coast. And we've got many other colleagues that we all compare and share notes within our network. So we can guide you from a multitude of different data points and experience and information that would help supplement what you'll find within your high school or your local areas.
Great point, Chris. I think just to summarize, we talked about the different tracks. We've got our highly selective students. We've got our college-bound students, our community college or our voc students. Each of those require different schedules, different deadlines, different requirements. Some of those key milestones are those golden rules you need to look for along the way. You're going to plan out your AP courses and what that looks like for your high school career. You look at any dual or concurrent enrollment. You're going to keep track of your exam prep, SAT, ACT. When are you integrating that into your schedule? Don't forget about your GPA. Other courses matter too. And then it all comes together. You put it in one big portfolio, one big college application. I'll get that submitted. And hopefully you've selected the right program of study at the right institution. And hopefully you don't leave Indiana thinking you're headed to San Diego County and you wind up in North New Jersey, right? So know the destination before you go. So both of you, thank you very much for your time today. Again, this was Admitted, your advice for college admissions, and appreciate your time. Check out our channel for more videos and definitely reach out to your local office. You can find that at our website, tutordoctor.com. That's tutordoctor.com. Look up your zip code, find your local office. We are here to help. Thank you, everybody.